welcome back to the Blood Brothers Born Brothers. We're talking about smells. I'm Kyle, that's Ryan. Ryan,
you know what smells?
What the Rock is cooking?
Shit, that is true. And what he's cooking is a bunch of garbage movies.
Whoa! Ryan, are you not looking forward to Jumanji?
Are you kidding me? That is the dumbest movie I bet. I don't even. You know,
but Ryan,
when I first heard about
like The Rock, what about Jack Black playing
hey,
girl?
Before you get to Jack Black, I will say I'm a Jack Black fan, especially Tenacious D. That they got some good songs. He's a funny guy.
What about School of Rock, Ryan?
I'm not a big School of Rock fan. It's okay. It never did it for me. Anyway,
you're not cool enough.
When I first heard about the new Jumanji movie, I thought it'd be a Jumanji sequel, as in. Like, I'm not talking bring the characters back.
Robin Williams and all that goodness?
Yeah, but I'm just saying...
What year is it, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm just saying it would be, you know, it would be a really good, like, hey, someone gets trapped in a thing and they have to come back or something like that, like, kind of cool like that. And instead, they were just, you know what's really popular? Superhero movies. Okay, well, we can't make a superhero movie, but if we make our characters avatars in video games, then they can have any powers. So then... They basically run around like frickin' superpowered individuals inside of a video game. That's not Jumanji. That's not Jumanji.
No, it's
Jumanji was it's not about Jumanji is not about giant action sequences, for Christ's sakes. Although there is some of them, but like the action sequences are generally more so for comedic purposes, like when the hunter comes out of nowhere and starts, like the British hunter, and starts hunting Robin Williams down. That is that is an action sequence, but it's ridiculous. There's a hunter from the safari hunting down a caveman who was a little boy trapped inside of a universe while there's other people are running around, and there's an office setting. It's goofy and classic and timeless. It's like Ferris Bueller style frickin' hijinks. What the hell is The Rock running around doing Quake style power jumps? That's just stupid. And shooting giant lasers. No, that's not. What is the... Anyway. Sorry. I like the original Jumanji. I actually think it's a really good movie.
What year is it, Ryan?
What year is it? And then he goes to the old shoe factory. Come on, am I wrong? Is Jumanji good? Jumanji's a pretty... I think it's a classic Robin Williams film.
I've actually never seen the movie.
Anyway. Yeah.
But I do like Robin Williams.
Welcome to Blood, Soul of the Bournes, yeah. Robin Williams is pretty good in it. I just liked it as a movie. I thought it was a good concept. I know it's not exactly always one of the highest rated movies because some people think it's just like a board game cash-in, just like some people don't think this thing's a video game cash-in, but this looks more like a video game cash-in. It didn't want to have fun with itself. If it does, it's in that douchebag you know what I mean, like that. Yeah, we're doing you can. But the moment Kevin Hart was cast, I knew exactly where this thing was going. Whew.
Not a Kevin Hart fan, Ryan.
He just I just feel like there's this current generation of people that think that you can just throw their version of pop culture on anything and it's good, and that's not that Kevin Hart to me embodies that. Like
as does Dwayne Johnson.
That's just not true. I'm not saying that doesn't mean Kevin Hart or Dwayne Johnson couldn't be good in a Jumanji movie. It means the Jumanji movie shouldn't be what they are and who they are just plastered onto Jumanji. It should be Jumanji, and they're good in it because they're playing characters that are good in Jumanji. Like, I don't know.
Make them bust out their acting chops, have like a little bit more range, like a Mark Wahlberg per se.
And I mean, like people, like there's always this
just
big
let that one slide.
Comedies never win Oscars. Nobody ever takes comedy seriously. Like there are really good comedies that no one ever credits, and it's like actually a big reason nobody takes comedy seriously is because most comedians are just that. They're a generational version of comedy, and most comedy movies are them throwing that generational version of comedy as a skin over things that already exist. It's like it turns out that actually isn't always going to make for the best movie.
Yeah.
Because you guys don't maybe study a film and then throw comedic elements. But then here's the problem: that almost always turns into another movie entirely that happens to be a drama that's also funny. Like
this one didn't win an Oscar, but a good example, Wolf of Wall Street had some fucking hilarious moments in that movie.
But
that was not a comedy.
That is not a comedy. But that's a Scorsese classic. He does very comedic things in what is otherwise serious. Black comedies do things like that too all the time. Like they can take themselves seriously because it's serious subject matter, but they can also get away with joking.
Boondock Saints.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous movie.
Oh, you can one-shot that guy now. Is it dead?
Oh yeah, we showed you Bunuk yeah at the house there. I remember that.
Yeah,
That
when
movie.
we were visiting Chris. Oh my
Is it
fucking
dead?
god! That
It blows up.
just...
Oh yeah, that movie. Oh man.
Yup.
Some people might be mad though. There's that character's a little racist in that movie.
I mean, yeah.
He tells a joke to as he brings a sandwich to his mob bookie or whatever about the the three guys that come to get the genie, and yeah, that is an offensive joke. I'm not going to state it because it is super offensive, but
I can't remember.
Yes.
I mean, fucking.
Actually, he comments on racism less so than anything else. If I remember correctly, the joke was, without using like the specific terms, it was there are three people who go ask the genie for a wish, and the first two are minorities, and the third one is a white guy, and the minorities asked to go back to their own countries, so the white guy just at the end says, "Oh, perfect, you fixed everything. I'll just have a Coke."
Yeah.
Which is like,
that
so
is the joke.
I'll just have a Coke then. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, because doesn't like his boss like
which I mean, essentially,
guy.
if you look at the radical right, especially in America, that's all they want, really. Like they actually, most of them don't want eradication of these people. They just don't want them in their country. That's really just what it comes down to.
A lot,
which is why it's such a weird hot button issue, because it's like they're being extreme, but they don't want to murder. A lot of them don't want to murder or kill this other demographic. They just do not want. They just don't see. They see Japan. The reality is they see the world. The world is population inflation equals economic and uncertain times. So the larger you get and the more diverse you get, the worse it gets. And they liked what they had 20, 30 years ago in America, and I can't fault them for that. You had way more things than you will. As you get more population, you lose freedoms. That's just a reality of existence. Now, it doesn't mean that you still aren't quote-unquote free. It's just you are going to have to learn to accept you're not always going to be able to live in a situation where the next closest person to you is, far enough away that they can't hear you. Like, that's the big thing is like, oh, once places get more full up, it's like then everything's an apartment building because there's just no other choice. There's just too many people. And it's like, yeah, that sucks, but you have to live with that. Like, that's just a reality. And I can get why people, like, this is a big reason this happens where I live and probably in rural areas where you live, because Canada has a lot of open space, so people are used to being very secluded. Like, they can be in rural communities, but that's just inevitable as refugees and parts of the world become uninhabitable. We're just all going to clump together. We're all going to end up like Japan eventually from a population perspective. From a population perspective, we're going to be large. We're going to be filled with many people. And like places like Europe.
I thought you meant homogenous.
Europe is a better blueprint.
Completely.
Europe is a better blueprint, but I mean, just because it has such a wide diverse of people of multiple different ethnicities, lifestyle backgrounds, etc. Also, the dog is barking. But yeah. So if I remember correctly, if I go down this hallway, I get that other ladder, right? Yeah, I get the ladder to come up. But I'm just gonna, we're gonna go. I want to show you Father Glasgow. So.
Wait,
ready?
But then what if you kill him? Are we going to be able to?
Yeah, we can still fight the cleric beast. You can go back and fight the cleric beast. I'm not going to kill him, so it doesn't matter. I just want to show him. I'm trying to get him to do the fireball. There it is.
Can you pick up those guys' souls even if you didn't kill them?
Yeah, you don't pick them up. You just get them when they die.
Oh, cool.
Pepper, quit it. There we go. But yeah, right? Like, I just mean Japan is a really good example of, if you look at population growth, like to a very, a lot of Asian countries are, to the very extreme, they have very unique ways of dealing with it, but the unique ways are sometimes cultural, but they're also sometimes just a byproduct of the fact that they've had to deal with those numbers a long time before.
Well, Japan's also a really unique situation to the rest of the world, as are Canada and the States, but Japan specifically, like, that country is a little bit different because it kind of got, some pretty big events happened about 70
Every
years
country
ago.
is defined by lots of the events, but I was just saying you can see the byproduct of the population and some of the design choices and living choices. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the hotels that are just a bed, like it's just like a hive. Like, you literally open a thing and it's just a bed. That's just a little bed in a chamber, and then you lay in it.
Yep.
And you pay a fee and you unlock the door, like it's like a vending machine. Like, you just, oh look, I can sleep in that, and then it locks behind you and like gives you privacy. It's like for us, the idea that would even exist is crazy. It's like, what? Like, look at our hotels. Most people want a hotel that's basically got a living room. You know what I mean? Like a place for you to sit down.
For sure.
Like, because we're just so used to having space.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that.
But I mean, what's going to happen when we don't have space, right? Like, and then what? Like that's one of the things that I'm not gonna say I fear, but I think sucks. Because like I see places in cities like New York and Tokyo where there's just this huge segregation population, and I choose to actively live in to not actively live in those places because of those reasons. Because that's not me. Like I don't want to be. No, not segregation. I'm just saying like. Did you misunderstand what I was saying there?
Yeah, I do misunderstand what you're saying.
Like I'm pretty sure I used the word correctly. Like people get segregated in ways that are done in efficiently. So the larger a city is, the closer you're going to have to be to other people. I'm not as comfortable living close to other people. That's why I choose to avoid large cities, because I don't like that atmosphere. But I'm not saying I'm afraid, but necessarily of it. But I just recognize that I also am going to have to get over that at some point when population comes to me.
I don't think it's going to happen anytime in our
places. Yeah, it will. It's already happening. Are you kidding me? Red Deer's already. When I was a kid, Red Deer was like 70,000. It's at 100,000, right?
Sure.
And at a certain point, Red Deer, like where I live, is going to merge with Blackfall, all the local towns. That's how it happened with Calgary and every other big city.
Right.
And then before you know it, it's a city. And then before you know it, there's more and more people living in that city. And then before you know it, they need to like rechange and remodel housing because you don't have enough space for people, but you need the people
Ryan,
because you have enough jobs. And there's lots of complications.
Yes, but you understand that the reason that like places like Japan and the United States are so clustered together is because they ran out of space to expand outwards, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
We're not
we have
there
one of the
yet,
smallest
we're not even. Ryan,
yes.
We have one of the smallest
Kyle,
populations. And literally, we are the biggest country in the world.
Kyle, our population growth, it's not like it's just going to stop growing. It's going to grow faster and faster and faster and faster. Not just because of us. It's just because of the fates. It's just because of the situation of the world.
No, like, I don't even think that's true because while we are obviously bringing in more immigration,
it's not just
people
immigration.
in our generation are having significantly less kids. Like the average child per family.
But it's not just immigration I'm talking about.
What are you talking
about? I'll give you a perfect example. United States is very congested, right? It's even more congested right now in specific areas of the country. Why? Well, because there's natural disasters happening. Well, why are those natural disasters happening? Because the places where people choose to live aren't always going to be inhabitable. That's just the truth. The weather will change, the dynamic will change, the ocean level will rise. For example, I know places in Newfoundland and places on the coast that in 10 or 20 years you won't be able to build a house there. It will be underwater. Which means what happens when that happens? People move closer and closer together. Again, we can only sure we have lots of extra space, but I mean, what is the government like? I'll give you a perfect example. Alberta has lots of extra space and fields, but once we start getting rid of the farmers, we're going to start are we going to build into the natural forests that we have mandates not to build into because we have nowhere else to build into? A lot of Alberta in particular is becoming this way. You have farms, which are your big most of your travel distance, and then in between the farms and cities are just protected natural resorts where people go to camp and hike, and like that's it. That's our space. Our open space is things that people are already using recreationally. So starting to change those to give them residential implications, then you're basically changing everything, and that's how you end up. I'm saying that's eventually how you end up, not culturally, but size-wise in some cases, like a place like Japan.
Sure, but I just don't think this is happening.
It's a slow degradation. Basically, what I'm saying is a big reason those places. Shining coins. A big reason those places obviously deal with population is because they've been around a lot longer than we have.
A
lot longer.
We're 150 years old this year. No, I'm not saying that would never happen. I just don't. We're not in our lifetime, dude.
Yes, but I do think in our lifetime, by the time I don't know what year, but assuming we live to 80 or 90, we will see what some of those countries have, which is bans on size of family due to population. We'll see you can only have one or two kids. I don't even think it's going to be necessary. We'll see that in our time.
Way more people are deciding not to have kids nowadays, Ryan. Do you
that is true, but I just think it's not just due to population. I think the economic benefit of it's a lot right now. Pretty much every country that isn't China is having a hard time economically, and the more people you have and the more kids you have, even if it's like well, everyone's having less kids, they might view it as just don't have 10 kids. We can't support, like, welfare will not cover that many kids, so they'll just start saying, we don't want to have to cover that many kids with welfare, with like that stuff.
Right.
So we're just
Well,
going to say,
you can have, there's a difference between...
I think the first cap for our country, by the way, will be
There's a
3.
difference-
I think that'll be the first cap. They'll be 3
Really
kids.
arbitrary number. So keep in
Well,
mind,
in
there's
Japan
also a
and
very
China
big...
in place, it's 1. Like, it's literally like, sorry,
Yeah.
oh, I died.
Well,
it's literally just 1. It's like, you can have a kid. That's it.
Yeah. So don't forget though, Ryan. A couple things. One, there's a very big difference between having incentives to not have more kids and a ban on having kids. Right? You can give incentives that lead toward, like, oh, we'll give you significantly bigger
yes,
tax breaks
absolutely.
for
But if
people with 1 or less kids. So there's an incentive not to. But that doesn't mean that, there's a difference between that and like we're gonna penalize you for having kids, right?
I
Like,
mean,
in essence,
yeah,
I guess
those
there's not,
countries,
like-
those countries. I by ban, I kind of just meant like, you know,
Restrictions?
restrictive. Yeah, restrictions.
Okay.
There will
Well,
be
even
rules
that's-
around the amount of family you have, more so than there are now. I guess I should say, because we see that that's coming.
Yeah. Well, I would still say there's a
I guess
difference
at that
between
point, I'm not
having a
really stating
penalty-
anything that you could argue with, because that's just a logical conclusion of development
Well,
of life.
sort of.
So,
It's a completely semantic argument,
The
but
moment I change that to, yeah, it'll be a conversation in politics, and they will talk about it and make changes.
Oh,
on
yeah,
it
I mean, that'll
to something.
happen.
It's like, well, yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
of course.
But I would say that there's a difference between having a punishment for having too many kids and having a reward for not having too many kids. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely, yes. I'm not
Yeah,
saying
so,
that
like-
they're the same thing. One
No,
is
no.
they're I guess what I'm saying is
One
they're
is a
both
much more
they're-
drastic.
Yes, they're both
yeah.
they're both choices to deal with a problem. One is infinitely harsher way of dealing with the problem than the
Yes.
other. Which I guess what I was trying to say is I wasn't trying to comment on the harshness, more so that it is an issue that I think that we will deal with in some regard, or attempt to deal with in some regard, at some
even
point in
think
our
this
lifetime
is something that
in
might
this country,
take care
anyway.
of itself, right? Like, I really think
it's
that
just so
way less
tough.
people are having kids nowadays, right? For example,
It's less so. I think the reason this will come is less so that there's way less people having kids, and like I think that when you look at the countries that did handle those harsher punishments, granted those countries have a history of holding harsher punishments, but at the same time, these decisions, like when they decided, like some of those countries to ban the number of kids people could have, was at a completely different time period where being harsher wasn't it seen as being harsher. You know what I mean? Like that's just what you did,
for sure,
right?
That was,
right. So
yes.
so I think that us dealing with it in a way of like, oh, we're just gonna impose restrictions, or you're not gonna get financial support, like
Right, but they're
like
not
if you
gonna
do,
impose
like to
restrictions
me
if
that's
it's
actually
not-
responding to an issue more so that we see happening more regularly, and it's especially going to happen as we continue to. We're not completely emulating the states, but there are ways where we are going down that way, and the welfare
Sure.
state is one of them. It's one of them, and that's a dangerous path. Like that's one of the reasons I know people in America would want to advocate to give people, like, you can only get a benefit for extra child support and things like that after so many kids, because it just encourages people who have low life situations to just go out and make a bunch of kids. And it's like, that's not, we don't want people to do that. Like, that's
I don't
not
think that that's
especially when
why
you're dealing with population. It's like, well, then
people
you don't
have
you don't want. I'm not see, but you jumped to an automatic conclusion that I said poor people have kids because they want to make financial bonus. I said some people make that decision,
Yeah, I
which
think
is an
it's less
accurate
of a,
statement.
Sure,
It
but I
doesn't
think
have,
that for the
it
most
doesn't
part, it's
have
not
to
a
be less
decision.
or more. I'm not defining a narrative. I'm
What do you mean?
saying some people choose to have kids to abuse the financial gain of it.
Sure,
Proof.
but if it's not a widespread issue, then it's not
It doesn't
something
have
we
to be a
need
narrative to
legislation for.
talk about it.
I didn't say narrative. I said
You are.
I
You're
don't think
because you instantly jump to, and this reminds me of another conversation we had. But you instantly jump to, I assumed, or I'm stating that everyone who is poor is
not
doing
at all.
that. I'm not.
No, no.
Yes, but you
L-
did.
allow
on
me
the
to
comment you
explain my
said.
thought
You
process.
responded by saying,
Let me
not
explain my thought
everyone.
process.
Of course that's
No,
the
I didn't
case.
say. Well, I didn't say not everyone. I said I don't think it's a widespread issue, which are two different things.
I mean, it is in
The point I'm
America,
getting at-
100%, and it is a widespread issue. I mean, it's a widespread issue regardless, because people are using up resources. I mean, that's just a waste of.
okay.
That's just an.
So-
I mean, honestly, I hate welfare.
Ryan, please
Welfare
let
is
me
one of
finish
the
my
worst
point. I
government
understand
states,
that
but
you do.
okay.
Please let me finish my point. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you are deciding on legislation, it is important that the significance of the problem is determined before you make something, right?
Sure.
You don't need to make laws for things that are not widespread issues. So, and it's important, especially because if you aren't solving if you're treating a symptom rather than a cause, you're really not doing any good. So, for example, too many kids for poor
But-
people. it's if you decide just let me get through the entire point, please. If you're deciding that the issue is that they're doing it because they want welfare, and then you start, the obvious
extra child
conclusion
support.
of
Like
extra
that,
child support,
obviously,
welfare, right? Financial assistance. Sure, it happens.
I would say it's a thing that happens,
not,
and I'm not saying it's not rare. It's just a thing that happens. It's not like.
I think it's an effect, though, not a cause. As in, if you solve the actual cause, then that will no longer be an effect. Let me finish.
It's tough for me to have these debates with you because you've lived a way different life than I've lived.
I know I have.
Way more shady motherfuckers than you have. Like,
sure, but I'm trying to. But that's selection bias. I'm trying to.
It is, but until you see how.
I mean, I can understand something without having lived it. But hang on, let me finish.
It's more. It's. Go ahead, but
you understand that any one person's life experiences are pretty much irrelevant, though, right? Because you can find.
But that's not the point. I'll let you finish. I'm trying to let you finish before I make my point.
Okay, so if the actual
I'm just trying to remember my point while you go. That's
I know. Welcome to my life, dude.
Indeed.
If people if people are claiming extra welfare because they have too many kids, and you decide that
it's not that they claim extra. You get extra benefits per child.
Yes, right. But I'm saying that if they're taking more because they have a lot of kids.
See, but I'm less arguing the people are the problem. The system shouldn't reward everyone for extra child, is what I'm saying.
I understand that. Well, I mean, the alternative there is
that's a silly way to do it because it inherently does encourage that attitude, regardless of whether you do it for legitimate means or not. There is still a reward gained from having it, and they view it as a life is worth money, which it is. But it encourages reckless decision, whereas you can find ways to do that without obviously I was talking more about
okay, so here let me do this in like a little bit more of a broad thing, right? So would you say
you
that
had a point you wanted to finish?
Yeah, I did. So like if somebody says that they're like, well, too many people are claiming money off of welfare by having poor people having a bunch of kids, we need to stop giving them much welfare. That's one way to deal with the problem, but there are too many negative consequences. If the actual issue is that people are having kids for alternative reasons, that you have to solve those things, right? If people are having kids because they don't have access to birth control or access to education, understand exactly the implication, or a lot of poor people have kids. Yeah, I think it's a much more prevalent issue, right? Poor people have kids because fucking is cheap, whereas doing other stuff is not.
But let's be real. Another reason, it's not just. Obviously, we're talking about poor people tending to have a lot of kids, which is something that happens. It's a thing.
Well, that is. I will absolutely agree with that.
The stresses, extra. They're probably having sex more. But the other aspect of it is education. They're not educated.
Oh, yeah. No, exactly.
Not every poor person isn't educated.
No, but on average, the poorer you are, the less education you have.
A lot of people in those situations have less education, and that does extrapolate to sexual education. Like the importance of it is just not as stressed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's my point, though, right? But if you fix education, you give free access to contraceptives, things like this, you're going to have less poor people having kids.
You don't fix what the actual problem is, which is what I was going to counter from the beginning.
Oh, sure.
And this is one of the reasons why you and I skirt around debates a lot of the time, or we'll interrupt each other, because it's mostly because we misunderstand each other. You'll make a point, and then you'll go on a diatribe about the point that you're countering, but and this is the case with this. You opened with, if the problem is that too many people are using welfare and the way the welfare is structured as a way to manipulate money out of getting children, why attack the symptom? But that's the point. The problem isn't that too many are using it. It's that when you design that as a system, it's unfair. That is a structurally badly designed system, and that doesn't work. That's the point.
Okay, so what is the alternative when somebody has too many kids and no money?
The alternative is UBI. That's the alternative. It's that a family gets...
What's UBI?
UBI is it's going to come. It's been tested in a lot of places. I know I say this a lot.
I don't know what it is.
It's universal basic income. So it's every family or person is entitled X regardless of whether they're in need or not, so that there's no more social stigma with welfare, so that you're not considered poor. The government, in cities and places they've tested it in Winnipeg and in Ontario, it's just they've tested in communities. The government sets up a place with the bank so that they can cut all the jobs at welfare and save money from that perspective, because it actually turns out that they spend less money. This only happens in certain countries. This wouldn't work in Japan. This wouldn't work in America.
It sounds really like communism. Am I wrong?
No, it's not communism. Not even close.
Okay, no, I'm asking.
Communism is a system where everyone gets their jobs determined for them and they can't excel. This system does not interfere with your current work situation at all. This takes the resources that the current welfare system is using and just gives them out to every single citizen. And just says, and again, that only works in places like a country that's currently probably going to end up using is like Finland. Countries that have a smaller population we're already spending more money on people and resources just micromanaging a system to try to help the poor that it would actually be cheaper just to give everybody money. That's the truth, and that's why it ultimately works, because then there's no social stigma with. It's essentially going, we're not at the point where we have enough population. We're giving every single person who lives here $1,000 is actually that expensive a month. Like, it's actually not. Like, it's, and because part of the reason welfare is so mismanaged is because government organizes things here, especially so fucking inefficiently. Like, they are one of the most inefficient people at they organize things by committee, which is the worst way to attack problems, because some problems are not financially worth a committee. So, and the problem, because we're so big on equality, every committee person gets paid fucking like more salary than you make. Like, they get paid 80 some odd thousand a year, and it's like, this is not worth, like, so it's like you're paying 10 people to study an issue and then start a division and then paying more people. Like, it's like to attack a problem that's, and this is eventually the realization of UBI, that would actually be solved by just taking the money you're giving to all these people and giving it to the people that need it. And the only reason they give it to everyone is so it's not communism. You're not, so it's not unfair. Everyone gets the same amount of money. It's standard of living money. It costs money to live. It costs money to eat. It costs money to have a house over your head. We will give you that basic requirement. Period. Okay. Everyone who lives in our country gets that.
This is a system that you support? Is that
absolutely
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So
and the reason it's not communism is because if you work at a CEO job or whatever, you're not going to be able to live a lavish life from this. So the incentive to go out and work hard is to
I understand. And when I was asking, I wasn't trying to like trap you on it.
Communism is a system that doesn't let you do that.
Right. I was genuinely asking because that's what it sounded like, and that's like I wanted to make sure
in all actuality, and this is one of the big reasons I support, I'm centrist, and not a lot of people are full communism because they just believe in the greater good. It's just because a lot of people don't actually value more in life, and they think that the people who do are wrong. And it's like, it doesn't matter. It's not my determination to tell those people how to live. And if there's enough of those people that want to live another way, and they're part of the voting consensus, it turns out that we can't live one way or the other, because it compromises each other's version of living, right? We have to find a middle ground. That's just how that works.
So
exactly.
Is it fair to say
which
that
is to me what UBI is. UBI gives the people who want more and are the go-getters the opportunity to do so without, like, so what? So another, like, again, the argument to the people who hate communism is like, we're already spending this money. Now we're just restructuring it. You lose nothing. In fact, you gain $1,000 a month. That's it. That's all you gain. Like, those people go, well, this doesn't change my perspective or my life at all. But the only argument those people have, and this is one of the reasons why it's been tested, is that people think it has the capacity to encourage people not to work, is because they can just live off nothing. But this has largely been debunked by the fact that then this goes to the debate that we were having about the amount of poor people that want to abuse the system. It's largely been determined that statistically the amount of people that want to get away with doing nothing is actually relatively low. It's not a high number. And that's what they were doing the test to prove. They found that a lot of people's lifestyle choices didn't change. What they were choosing to do, what they were choosing to live.
So is it fair to say then, Ryan?
All that changed was people had less stresses, because the things that they needed to deal with were always dealt with. Like, it's just logic. It's just.
Okay.
It turns out that living is a really stressful thing.
Is it fair to say then, Ryan, that you tend to be less in favor of capitalism then?
What? No, not at all. I'm super in favor of capitalism.
Okay.
The system is 100% tailored towards existing in a capitalist system.
Oh,
like,
Jesus
absolutely.
Christ, get some fucking help. There you go.
But I favor capitalism. I favor capitalism way more than communism. Like, absolutely.
No, sure. I wasn't trying to, like, trap you on that.
The typical line from a liberal or a center Albertan is, I favor capitalism for economic decisions, and I favor socialism for, like, healthcare and like socio-economic decisions, like decisions that affect whether people can do whatever, the affect equality. Like, everyone should be able to earn the same jobs and same wages provided they apply themselves, right?
Yes,
but the decision
exactly where I stand at.
But the decision for the decision as it relates to UBI is not considered an economic one because in situations where you can prove that we're already spending that money, right? We're basically saying that's just restructuring an economic decision that's already being made. And it's also saying I put a dollar value on the cost of life, and people deserve that right? And I do believe that, even though I'm not a communist, I believe that unless proven otherwise, every person does deserve to live. They deserve a right to have a roof over their head and food in their stomach. Because if you believe in equality, how can you get ahead if you don't have those base essentials, right? You just can't. That's just a truth. You can't do it.
No, for sure. So
and to me, like that's where some of the divide happens with the more extreme right or some of the some of the centrist people versus the non-centrist, etc. Is do people at a base value deserve the right to exist?
We should try to think about calling it an episode sometime.
Yes, I want to show you the father first. We don't have any. We have 2,000 souls, but we're not going to lose. The father's right here, so.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wanted.
Yeah, you'll get a cutscene here, so. But yeah, interesting debate nonetheless. But yeah.
No, for sure.
That said,
I consider myself to be
UBI's not instituted yet, and it's still being tested for reasons. But a version of UBI is where if you do the research on it, there's a lot because there's when you're doing research on presenting political ideas, generally the ones that have the most people from as many different camps as possible are the most likely to. The most support, from as many different camps as possible. By camps, I mean like different parties or different political affiliates. They're the most likely to see implementation because they have the least divide among the people that traditionally divide over issues.
Well,
right?
Yeah, of course.
So, and because this issue benefits everyone in every divide, it's one of those, or this change. That's why it's one of those things.
Yeah.
But again, it still needs to be ironed out.
Well,
there's a reason people play devil's advocate to it. Okay.
Well,
so I don't have the bell, but I'm going to die here in a second. So this is the father. I'm hoping to get to the.
Gas coin in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, dude, look at all that. Oh, wow. That actually did more damage than I thought it was going to. You have 12 blood vials. You might be fine.
No, I'm not. Kyle's
have full faith in yourself.
His timing is really hard. He shoots me.
Don't be a pussy. It's fine.
See, the issue is he does a lot of attacks. And this graveyard is a terrible place to fight. See, and I don't know his risk. Because he does different attacks, the timing on them is different every time.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh.
What's that smell?
He's going to change. So here we go. Welcome to the hard part of this boss fight.
It's enough to make a man sick.
You're out of bullets, by the way.
I know.
I didn't want you to
anymore.
No, I understand.
I can't afford to.
I didn't want you to fuck yourself by expecting a shot to land and then it not landing because you don't have any bullets. I know that sometimes looking at the UI and stressful situations.
See, that shit's so cheese.
Yeah.
That attack is garbage because I dodged to the side and he swings an arc around with it. So it's just like try dodging this, bitch. It's like fuck you. There's no way to dodge it, pretty much. Oh man, I was hoping to get him clipped. That would have been great. But then he shoots me, you cunt.
Oh, whoa!
What? That's not a bad word. Oh, come
on.
Cunt's one I was gonna say, are you one of those? Some women are like no offense to them, but that's come on.
That's not just women. I've heard.
I feel like one of the things that we allow in this society is we might not allow condemning, but we have always allowed slang for your whatever your sexual orientation is. There are multiple slangs that are accepted for your penis. You know what I mean? That stuff generally gets allowed. That's not that offensive.
Yeah.
It's just another word for something that exists.
Oh, rip. Yeah, so I feel like
I'm sorry. I guess you could say that about other people, about racist words or something. But those were used initially with malicious intent. That's how those are started. Whereas I feel like other words for I feel like that stuff started because people just got sick of tired of saying fuck, which in itself is still correlated with sex. Also, that's the father. I didn't get to go to his state, but he essentially when you get him to proper half health, he turns into a werewolf.
Okay.
And then at that point you die. Because his attacks are really, really rapid. I'm talking 7-hit combos. I'm talking...
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
This is probably
but that'll be the episode.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to show off the father. We can now basically grind out some blood vials and go fight the cleric beast.
Yeah.
So my last 2,000 souls are basically, we're just going to call them lost. They're at the father. I want to fight the cleric beast first because we stocked up on Molotovs. But it's, yeah. that'll do it for this episode of Bloodborne Brothers, presented by political UBI debate and all this other stuff. Yeah.
And I'm definitely not going to call the episode Ryan's Communist.
Hopefully you don't, because I'm not a communist.
Yeah, it's a clickbait title, Ryan.
That's terrible.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Yeah, but even if you don't admit I'm a communist.
Oh no, you absolutely are not actually a communist, but do clickbait. That's how we're supposed to get the views. See you guys next time.